Usually when we watch a movie, there is always that one famous scene, the training montage.
Oh, yeah, right. The hero decides they want to change their life, and suddenly the exciting music kicks in.
Exactly. And in exactly 3 minutes, they go from being totally lost to completely successful.
Mm.
Like they learn martial arts, they write a whole novel, they just fix their entire life. It's fast, it's dramatic, and it's perfectly clean.
Right, because, well, real change does not have a background soundtrack. It is basically the absolute definition of a slow, quiet journey.
Yeah, exactly. You step out of the movie theater and into real life, and you look at your own goals. Maybe it's learning a new language or, making a career change or just trying to get your health in order. And suddenly that movie magic is just gone.
It really is. The reality is honestly a lot slower.
So today on our deep dive, we are basically tearing apart this illusion of overnight success. We are digging into an incredible stack of sources, including the research behind James Clear's Atomic Habits, to find out how massive life transformations actually happen. And spoiler alert, it is not going to happen by tomorrow morning.
It's a profound realization, but it is also exactly where people get trapped. I mean, so many people feel completely stuck in their lives because they are waiting for that dramatic, movie-like moment to happen.
Oh, for sure.
They wait for this lightning bolt of inspiration or, they wait for this magical feeling called motivation to suddenly arrive before they even begin.
And that right there is the trap. They think, I don't feel motivated today. I don't feel like the hero in the movie yet, so I will just wait for tomorrow. But okay, let's unpack this. Why is it that setting these massive, sudden goals usually ends in failure? What is actually happening in our heads?
Well, it really comes down to a mix of fear and cognitive overload. When a goal is too big, like saying, I want to be perfectly fluent in a new language in 6 months, it feels overwhelming.
Right, it's just too much.
Exactly. It's this blurry, massive mountain. And because it is so big, the brain doesn't actually know what the first step is. So we wait for a perfect master plan. And honestly, that perfect plan never comes.
It never does.
The brain just looks at the giant mountain, calculates the massive amount of energy required, and simply says, no thank you.
I read a really beautiful, specific metaphor in our sources that perfectly illustrates how ridiculous this approach is. Real change is like growing a plant. When you plant a seed in the dirt, you cannot just stand over it, stare at the dirt, and yell, grow now, be a tree today.
Right. If someone saw you doing that, they would definitely think you were crazy.
Yeah, because you cannot force the outcome through just like sheer willpower. Instead, you have to give it small drops of water and a little bit of sunlight every single day.
And you don't even see the roots growing underneath the soil at first.
Exactly. But that invisible work is what eventually breaks the surface.
What's fascinating here is the mechanics behind those daily drops of water. It brings us to the 1% rule. And the math behind this is actually incredible.
Math is wild.
It is. The principle is that if you manage to improve by just 1% every single day, those small improvements do not just add up. They multiply, they stack on top of each other. So by the end of a single year of 1% daily improvements, you do not just become a little better. Mathematically, you become 37 times better at whatever you are doing.
37 times better, just from tiny, almost invisible daily actions.
Yes. And to put a concrete picture to this, our sources highlight the famous case study of the British cycling team. For decades, British cycling was notoriously average. I mean, they had won almost nothing on the global stage.
Oh, I remember reading about this.
Right. So then this man named Dave Brailsford took over as performance director. And he didn't come in and set a giant blurry goal of win everything immediately. He applied the 1% rule. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains.
Wait, break that down for me. What did those marginal gains actually look like in practice?
They were tiny. Like, they redesigned the bike seats to make them slightly more comfortable. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for better grip.
Wow.
But then they went even further. They figured out which massage gels led to the fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach the riders the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold.
Wait, really? Washing hands?
Yeah. They even brought the exact same mattress and pillow to every hotel so the riders got a 1% better night's sleep.
That sounds almost obsessive, just changing pillows and washing hands.
It does sound obsessive when you just look at one single action. But remember the compounding math. Brailsford believed that if they executed all these tiny 1% improvements, they would win the Tour de France within 5 years.
And didn't they win it faster than that?
They actually won it in 3. And they went on to completely dominate the Olympic Games. It wasn't one massive movie montage change. It was hundreds of tiny drops of water compounding over time.
I love that story because it brings us to another amazing analogy from the research. Think of this compounding effect, like the flight path of an airplane. Imagine an airplane taking off from Los Angeles, heading to New York.
Okay.
If the nose of the airplane is shifted by just 1 single degree at takeoff, which is change of only a few feet, the passengers wouldn't even feel it. The plane does not land in New York. The compounding effect of that 1 degree over thousands of miles means the plane actually ends up in Washington, D.C.
That perfectly illustrates trajectory versus current position. People get so obsessed with their current position, like I am not fit or I cannot speak this language.
Right.
But the 1% rule shows us that trajectory is what actually matters. Are your daily habits pointing you toward New York or Washington?
I hear that, but practically speaking, when you have a massive goal like a career change or paying off massive debt, telling yourself to just change your trajectory by 1 degree feels incredibly frustrating. When you are standing at the bottom of the mountain, you don't want a 1% shift. You want to be at the top. So how do we bypass that emotional frustration?
Well, we bypass it by understanding the critical difference between goals and systems. A goal is the big dream. It's the destination, the top of the mountain, the beautiful plant you want to grow. But the system is the small daily routine that actually gets you there.
So goals are the results and systems are the process.
Exactly. If you want to bypass the frustration, you have to stop staring at the peak of the mountain and instead fall in love with the system of walking. Redefine success from, did I reach the peak today, to, did I execute my system today?
That makes a lot of sense. Let me bring in another analogy from the reading to ground this. Think of a tiny daily system like a GPS in a car. If you get into your car with the grand goal of going somewhere awesome, but you do not put a specific address into the GPS, what happens?
You just drive in circles.
Exactly. You drive in circles, you waste gas, you waste energy, and you waste time. A tiny daily habit provides that specific GPS address. It tells your brain exactly where to go.
Yeah.
So instead of a vague goal like, I will study English today, your GPS address is, I will read exactly 1 page of this book after breakfast.
Precisely. And having that specific GPS address removes the cognitive overload we talked about earlier. Your brain doesn't have to figure out what to do. It just has to execute the specific step.
Right.
But even with a clear address, the most common pushback people give is, I just do not have the time. My day is completely full.
Yes. And that brings us to one of my absolute favorite concepts we are diving into today, pocket time.
Mm-hmm.
The sources compare our daily time to a handful of coins. We all have big coins in our day, right? Like a solid 1-hour block of free time on a Sunday afternoon.
Sure.
But we also have so many small coins scattered throughout our day. 5 minutes waiting for the bus, 3 minutes standing in the kitchen waiting for the water to boil for pasta, 7 minutes sitting in a parked car waiting to pick up a friend.
And those small coins are your pocket time. Most people just throw those coins in the trash by doing absolutely nothing. Or worse, they let them get stolen.
Okay, I have to challenge this a bit, though.
Yeah.
I understand the math of adding up those small coins, but what about context switching?
What do you mean?
Well, if I use 5 minutes waiting for a bus to review vocabulary flashcards, it takes my brain at least 3 minutes just to get out of waiting mode and into focus mode.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I am actually focused, the bus arrives. Does a 5-minute window actually do anything useful?
That is a fantastic question. And to answer it, we have to look at what is happening physically inside the brain. We were talking about neuroplasticity. The very first time you try to use that 5-minute window at the bus stop, yes, there is high friction, it feels clunky, and it takes 3 minutes to focus.
Yeah, that's what I experience.
But every single time you repeat an action in a specific context, you are physically thickening the neural pathways in your brain associated with that habit.
So the repetition actually lowers the friction over time.
Exactly. The action requires less cognitive load the more you do it. By the 20th time you pull out those flashcards at the bus stop, your brain recognizes the environment. The context switch doesn't take 3 minutes anymore, it takes 3 seconds.
Wow.
Your brain just says, oh, we're at the bus stop. This is where we learn vocabulary. The 5-minute pocket becomes pure, high-quality, focused time. But as you mentioned earlier, you have to be careful because those small coins are constantly under attack by what the sources call time thieves.
Time thieves. Let me guess. Mindless doom scrolling on a smartphone.
That is the biggest one. A time thief is anything that steals your pocket time without giving you anything meaningful, useful, or genuinely restful in return. You open your phone just to check one quick message while the pasta water is boiling, and suddenly 40 minutes have completely disappeared.
Oh, I've been there.
We all have. The time thief stole your small coins, and it probably stole a few of your big coins too. Protecting those 5-minute pockets of time from the time thieves and intentionally using them for a tiny system is exactly what creates that 1% daily growth.
So we have our GPS address, we are protecting our small coins from the time thieves, and we are trusting the trajectory of our flight path. But let's dig deeper into the psychology. What happens to our sense of self when we actually start doing this every day?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we find a brilliant concept from Atomic Habits. These tiny daily actions do much more than just build a technical skill. Over time, they slowly change your actual identity. They shift how you see yourself as a human being.
Right.
The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner.
Wait, I really want to unpack this. How does taking a messy 5-minute action at a bus stop actually convince my brain to adopt a completely new identity? Here's where it gets really interesting. How does the brain process that?
It has to do with a fascinating piece of neurology called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
Okay, the RAS.
Right. To put it in clear terms, the RAS is a filtering system located at the base of your brain. Every single second, your brain is bombarded with millions of pieces of sensory information. Right now, for example, until I mention it, you're not consciously feeling the weight of the shirt resting on your back.
Oh, wow. Now that you say it, I feel it. But a second ago, I completely didn't.
Exactly. Your RAS filtered out the feeling of your shirt because it deemed it unimportant. Your brain has to decide what is important enough to bring to your conscious attention. Now, think about this filter in terms of your identity.
Okay.
If your identity is tied to negative self-talk, if your core belief is, I'm terrible at learning languages, or I always fail at diets, your RAS filter is programmed to look for proof that matches that identity. It will highlight every mistake you make and filter out your successes.
It is essentially an algorithm that feeds you content based on what you already believe.
That is a perfect analogy, but here is the magic of the small daily habit. Every time you take a small positive action, every time you water the plant, you are providing undeniable proof to your brain that you are someone who takes action.
Ah, I see.
You adopt a growth mindset. By executing that tiny 5-minute habit consistently, you are physically reprogramming the RAS filter. Your brain starts scanning your environment for signs of progress. You stop seeing yourself as a failure, and you start to naturally believe, I am a learner. I am someone who improves.
That is incredibly powerful. It means that the action comes first and the feeling comes second. Our sources pointed out a fantastic realization about this. Confidence comes after you take the jump, not before.
Right.
So many of us sit around waiting to feel confident before we start a new habit. We want to feel like an expert before we open our mouths to speak a new language. But the absolute truth is, you have to start practicing while it's still messy, awkward, and imperfect.
You really do.
You have to speak the language, or do the workout, or read the dense book, even when you feel silly doing it.
Because that messy, imperfect action is the exact evidence your brain needs to build the confidence. You cannot wait for the perfect moment or the perfect movie montage. A messy, fumbling start today is mathematically and psychologically better than a perfect one day that never happens.
Now, with all of this in mind, I want to pause our conversation for just a moment to speak directly to you, our listener.
Yes.
Yes.
Rizzo.
We have talked a lot about the profound power of small steps today. So we want to introduce a special segment we call the Tiny Favor. We want to ask you a direct question, and we want you to really think about your answer. What is one tiny 5-minute habit you will start doing this week? Just 5 minutes.
And remember, you do not need to be perfect at it. You just need to start the system. Think about your pocket time. Do you have 5 minutes while you drink your morning coffee? Do you have 5 minutes waiting for your computer to boot up?
Exactly.
Use that specific time to complete this tiny favor for yourself. Make the habit incredibly small, make the GPS address very specific, and protect it fiercely from those time thieves.
So what does this all mean? If we look back at the toolkit we have just built together over this deep dive, we are really talking about 4 foundational pillars. To make sure you can carry these concepts with you into your week, let's seamlessly walk through our vocabulary tour. Think of this as an executive summary of the 4 key words that will drive your transformation. Let's start with the math.
Right. So the first pillar is compound. In clear terms, to compound means that small inputs, when added together consistently over time, multiply to become something huge. Just like Dave Brailsford and the British cycling team, a 1% improvement does not just add up, it multiplies.
That's the airplane.
Exactly, it is the trajectory of the airplane. 1 degree of change compounds over distance until you arrive at a completely different destination.
And to make things compound, we need our second pillar, consistent. To be consistent means executing your system regularly, again and again, especially on the days when you do not feel like doing it. It is not about intense 3-hour marathon sessions that leave you exhausted.
Right.
Consistency is simply about maintaining the rhythm. Tapping into that 5-minute pocket of time every single day without fail is what consistency looks like in the real world.
Which brings us to the third pillar, identity. Your identity is the deep, fundamental belief you hold about who you are as a person. It is the program running your brain's RAS filter. The ultimate goal of building a new system is not just to acquire a skill, but to physically rewire that filter to change your identity.
It is shifting from I am trying to learn to I am a learner.
Exactly. And the tool that builds that identity is our fourth pillar, tiny habit. A tiny habit is an action that is so small and requires so little cognitive load that you simply cannot say no to it. It is not an overwhelming goal like reading a whole textbook by Friday. It is reading one single paragraph.
It is the specific 5-minute GPS address that gets you moving when you have zero motivation.
Those 4 pillars, compound, consistent, identity, and tiny habit, really are the foundation of everything we have unpacked today. If you stop staring at the massive mountain and simply focus on those 4 elements, the massive life transformations you are looking for will quietly take care of themselves.
This has been such a rich and wonderful journey today. But before we say goodbye, we have one final, somewhat surprising thought for you to carry with you.
Yes, we have spent this entire deep dive talking about action, building systems, finding pocket time, and constantly watering the plant. But there's one more beautiful idea drawn from the reality of how things actually grow. Resting is not wasting time.
Oh, I love this part.
If massive transformation is truly like growing a plant, you have to remember that a plant also requires the deep quiet of the night to process its growth. It needs the darkness to rest. If you miss a day, or if you simply hit a wall and need to sit on the couch and rest, it does not mean your trajectory is ruined.
Right, it's not a failure.
True rest is not a time thief. Rest is just preparing the battery so you can execute your system tomorrow.
That is the perfect note to end on. The plant needs the dark just as much as it needs the light. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Remember, you did not just spend your time today by listening to this deep dive. You actively invested it. You used a very valuable big coin to do something wonderful for your own trajectory. Be kind to yourself, protect your pocket time, keep watering your plant, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.